This week on Behind the PFP,
but really just like watch people that you feel passionate about and then just start reading about their struggles and successes and try to like maybe make better decisions. Affirmations are a cheat code for like anything. Like tell yourself you can do it. Tell yourself like I hit the jackpot. Tell yourself like I'm thin, I'm gorgeous, I'm all this stuff. It really can speed things up for you.
so I'm wondering, did you manifest this? Did he fall in love with your tweets? This is just, you're the first person I've met who's found a boyfriend on Twitter. And I want to
Really?
I want to hear the story. What's the best advice you've ever been given?
Do what makes you happy.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Behind the PFP. Today, I am so excited to be joined by Dr. Kerry. Dr. Kerry and I met on Twitter Spaces, which has become a new favorite pastime of mine. Now, Dr. Kerry is very accomplished. She's a career development educator, and she's also helping support women in decentralized Web3 economies, which is something I'm a huge fan of. Now, Dr. Kerry, you were kind enough to send me your resume ahead of this interview, and it's 5 pages long. I am so impressed. I was hoping you could give us the TLDR on your education and background.
Thanks for having me here, by the way, Jade. I'm super excited. I love what you're doing and how you're interviewing everyone and bringing everyone closer together in Web3. So yeah, I am the career development education lead in Massachusetts. That's my day job. I'm also a commissioner on the status of women and girls in Massachusetts. It's something that I care about deeply. So not just women's financial literacy, but the way they navigate through their day, their learning and development, their career choices, just ways to really bring women into anything that they want to be into without restrictions. So equality. I have a PhD in learning and development from Lesley University in Cambridge. And I focused on emerging adult women entering the workforce. And I focused on the age of 22 to 25 when they're just launching those first career moves and seeing how we could better tap into that period. So yeah, that's what I studied at Lesley. And yeah, it's carried me through so far. So good, yeah.
So one part of your research that really fascinated me was this exact idea of emerging adulthood. And I feel like it's something I really connected with, and I think others will too. This idea that it's taking longer to grow up and we're stuck in this in-between phase, maybe more self-focused. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit more to that, because I know that I feel stuck. I feel like maybe I should be in a different place in my life. You know, what should I be feeling? How will I know that I'm out of this phase? And I'm so curious.
Yeah, so I felt that same way. And then I started studying it and became passionate about it. It's this new stage in life coined by Jeffrey Arnett in Worcester, Massachusetts. Basically, before people used to get married right after high school or find a spouse right in college, and 22 they were like ready to settle down. And now there's this giant, and it's for a lot of different reasons. One of them is birth control, able to not have children right away, just less pressure to get married as early. People are continuing their education. There's not enough jobs. People are in grad school. They're living with their parents. So there's a host of reasons. Boomers are staying in the workforce longer. So it's this like extra adulthood that you have that no one's really studied or acknowledged or provided services for. And you essentially age out of care. So like you're in high school and you kind of have your teachers, you have your guidance counselors, you have your friends. And then these were like higher performing girls. They went to women. They went to college. So it was not necessarily the same cohort. So not all students follow that traditional path of having that support in college, but the people that I studied did. So they went from kind of like having that support in college, and then all of a sudden like services stopped. There's no like campus anything that you can go to at 22 if you go right. A lot of these women went like to New York City to move with their friends, and they ended up moving like a bunch of times, or they ended up having to interview a bunch of times, and nobody really prepared them for that kind of chaos. And it was different. There are more people doing that life than like going right into marriage, family, like stability.
Mhm.
And emerging adulthood has the pillars of like the way you know you've reached adulthood. It's accepting responsibility for yourself, financial independence. And this, I hope they're continuing research, but age 30 is this like age 30 marriage deadline, which I wish was not on the table because I felt extremely pressured at age 30 to like get married and have a baby, so much so I did it like super quickly. And I think looking back, like I wish I had taken the time to properly navigate my life instead of worrying about like reaching certain adult benchmarks. So it's a new field and it's super promising to kind of chart your path like from 18 to 29, and then that can like spring you forward. And don't worry if you're over if you're over 29, like you can change things. As you can see, like I'm always adjusting, but during that time I felt like there was nowhere to go for people in that age group. And I think Twitter Spaces is one place where people are like really trying to identify mentors, like tell me what to do, because they didn't learn it in college. Like it was just not happening. Now I'm the career development education lead, right? Like it's not happening in high school that these people are learning this stuff. It's not happening in college. Like where are they going to learn it? So we need to adapt curriculum and give these kids a heads up to what's going to happen. And things change so fast too. So, I did that research a while ago and things have even changed a little bit. And I see people are even more confident than they were when I did the research. So that's promising. But yeah, I could go on and on about it, but those are the basics.
It's a huge problem, and it's something that I feel so personally. I went through high school and they tell you, okay, go to high school, study hard so you can get into a good college. And then once you get into a good college, study hard so you can get a good job, and then get a good job, get married, buy the house. But then, it's like it's set path. And, I've been doing all these things because that's what society told me that I should do, or that's what my parents told me that I should do. And then I feel as if I just woke up and I've been doing these certain things, but is that what I want to do? And I feel like I'm not the only person. I just don't, there was no resources, there was no guidance. You're right. Like once you hit age 22, that's it. You're on your own. And how do we find our own way? What makes us happy? It's a huge, important conversation. I'm glad there's people like you that are studying it.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. I mean, you don't know exactly what to do because you don't have any experience either. So there's like nothing to draw upon. You don't have, you're not 30 and can look back at things that happened and, make different choices based on that. You're just like out there like, okay, good luck. And people really expect quite a bit from new employees. And part of the reason why my professors let me study it was that the turnover rate in companies for 20-year-olds was just astounding. And they were losing millions of dollars each year just retraining people. So the cost of retraining alone were really significant. Also, there's a lot of mental health issues in that age group. And so there were a lot of sick time where they were calling in. And so that was another way that they were like, companies were bleeding out money. So it is not just like for emerging adults, it's also companies. This contributes to your bottom line. Like you should know about this. So hopefully contact me if you need any more information on it. Whoever's out there.
I feel like you're pretty modest because you've actually done a TED talk where you were talking about a lot of these ideas, which I was so impressed by. And in that talk, you were talking about how 1 in 4 adults actually will struggle with mental health and depression issues by their early 20s. And this is actually a $42 billion industry where companies are having to spend that kind of money dealing with adults struggling with these issues, whether it's turnover or job loss and having to retrain other people. Have there been any solutions? Or is there anything like that in the works? Are there any tips for people?
There are some.
Right now?
I mean, so emerging adulthood is starting to be taught in psychology programs. Like you can go to college and take like intro to emerging adulthood instead of, sometimes they would have, or actually a lot of times they have adolescent psychology. Now they're adding emerging adulthood. So you could take an elective, right? That's been a change because this phrase has only been coined since 2000. Okay. 2000, yes, 2000. So, it takes things a while to start. But some companies have helped people like identify mentors early. They've done a lot of intergenerational conflict type training where, a boomer or a Gen Xer or a millennial might have differing beliefs. I know they have really great like TikTok videos now that they didn't have when I was doing this research. Like you can learn so much from those, and they're like, it just shows the evolution of thinking between all the different generations. And so they're doing a lot of that work. I do think that even though emerging adulthood is like at any time, so like I experienced emerging adulthood, you experienced emerging adulthood, I'm very excited about like the 22-year-olds right now. Like they just seem so much more confident and better poised to take things on. There are a lot of people who aren't, but I'm hopeful that like this generation will allow researchers to study this more and really support people during this time. So like it's the kids themselves that I'm excited about. The adults, actually. I always call them kids because they're younger, but
what advice would you give to 22-year-olds that are coming out of school and going into this next phase in their life?
I mean, I think it's very difficult to think about your whole life at 22. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get married. And that's like it. And I'm going to be a teacher and I'm going to have kids. And then like, I was just like picturing myself at my parents' pool, and just like hang out with my mom, because that's kind of what I did growing up. But there's like so much more. And so there's so much different advice, but really before you commit to like a graduate program or anything huge that might put you into debt, if it doesn't pan out, like really, really think about where you want to be financially, socially, and really it is that period to actually really think about your happiness. And I think I remember being so stressed and so anxious and I'm like, oh my goodness, like if I could have just, like I didn't find out about like manifesting until I was 28 or 29. And I'm like, no, like, so I think really think about your life in 2 to 5 to 10-year increments. And then just really make careful decisions when you're going to put a lot of money down, something that will have major implications for your life.
Mm-hmm.
And also for women tend to listen to their parents and siblings and boyfriends or significant others' perceptions of what they should do more so than men. So really think about what you want to do and watch people that. There was this woman that inspired me so much, Jody Williams. She's a Nobel Peace Prize winner. And I got to meet her when I was 25. And I was just like, I want to talk like you. Like, you're so strong. I want to talk like you. And like, so really, there's another quote that like women need to see it before they can be it. Like start reading stories about, well, I'm just focusing on the women piece because I know there's a lot of women, but that I have in my life that I care about, but really just like watch people that you feel passionate about and then just start reading about their struggles and successes and try to like maybe make better decisions where they're like, I could have done this, so do this. But then there's a lot of research too that's like, did I listen to everybody that told me to do what I should have done, right? But really, I think the best advice is really just like model the people you want to be like. That's like the easiest way. Find someone that made that path and just like go for it.
I so resonate with that. And I want to read you something because you said the quote that I actually wrote down to bring up in a little bit when I heard I heard you speak earlier, and I loved this. You said, women see it before they can be it. Women gain confidence by sharing stories from other women. And, I think that is such a powerful statement. And that's a big part of the reason why I wanted to make this podcast. I wanted to share stories, if I can be an influence to others, if I can have strong women like you come on and share their stories. You're absolutely right. I was that person and I was following a certain path because that's what my parents told me to do. I was just following what my mom did, and if I saw other strong women doing things, then it would be so much easier to model that path. And I really respect how you've gotten so involved in the Web3 space, which is kind of what I want to segue into next, because it's a very male dominated space. And I think women can make a huge contribution. So with that being said, I want to know what led you down the crypto rabbit hole? Because everyone has a fun story, and I want to hear.
Oh God. It's so funny. I mean, I'm a single mom, right? And I believe in not cheat codes. I don't think crypto is a cheat code, but I think in life you have to kind of develop ways of being in the world when things are difficult. And I started investing after I got divorced, I think just a little bit, like very little. I had no idea what I was doing. It's so sad when I think about like all the education I've had, but I grew up, we never talked about financial literacy, grew up I went to urban school system, like anyway. So I got into the crypto space. I first started investing in like Tesla on Robinhood. And then I bought some Dogecoin and then didn't sell at like 70, but it was at 79 cents. And I like still like, it's very difficult. Like that was a crypto mistake. But how I got into more crypto was that I got involved with a company called Voyager. And so I started listening to Twitter more. I already had like a Twitter profile, but I never really used it.
Mhm.
And I would just listen in to Twitter spaces. And my brother would think it was so funny. He's like, you're like talking on the internet. And I'm like, yeah, I'm learning about, I get to learn and be in all these conversations that I'd never be in. Like, I don't have a chance to talk to dads, talk about their credit cards and how many points they have on them. And I'm all of a sudden in these conversations where they're like giving me all this information that I never even knew I needed. Right. So they're like, never have this credit card, ever. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Of course, Voyager didn't turn out so well either. So I made a lot of mistakes in like 2 years. But from that, from this, I've met so many people just talking about finances,
Mhm.
but also I bring that other perspective, like championing women. And my friend Jessie wrote a book, The Pocket Guide to Web3. And actually, I have it over. It should be in back of me right now. The Web3 Pocket Guide. I can show you at the end. But yeah, I'm just so excited, and like crypto NDO and just all the few women that I think are in the space just need to be amplified. And I really love doing that work. Like in general, like I don't care what you're doing. I'm like, if there's a field where women are underrepresented, I'm like, look at this woman, like she's so wonderful, not just because she's a woman, but because she has all the facts. She is doing it 10 times better than half the guys that are out there, like that kind of thing. That's how I stayed kind of in the space. And I do some coaching, and then I kind of got into a little bit like Web3 dating advice type things. And so that's kind of where I've landed. I've been on a lot of different podcasts and shows on financial literacy and stuff like that. So I'm still very much in state government, but I'm also looking at other opportunities like coaching, speaking, writing, and that kind of thing. So it's been exciting.
You brought up something I wanted to touch on a tiny bit more. You've been pretty vocal about your experience with Voyager. I'm so sorry that you have funds locked in Voyager. I'm a Celsius creditor myself, so I really do sympathize with you. This year and the markets, it's been tough enough just having the value of our crypto go down, but then also having these companies file bankruptcy and our funds, the future of that being uncertain is difficult. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit more about your experience with that and, your thoughts on that moving forward and how you personally dealt with the uncertainty of this and how you're going to move forward.
I mean, honestly, I was like all in on Voyager. I just thought it was a wonderful company. The ease of use is amazing. Like, it's so funny because the app is still working and you can still see how much money you have. And it's just like, is Celsius like that as well?
I haven't logged in a little while because I have some PTSD from it, but probably.
No, I know, but I'm sorry, I won't make it.
No, it's okay.
Well, I think it's actually worse. Yeah, that we do have it, but it shows, the crypto that I'm still invested in other platforms, which I have to get off of. But anyway, it was so difficult because, I became a VGX hero. I was really invested in the community, and not in like a cultish way, although now we kind of look back and we were like, oh my God, like we were so into it. Like, don't say anything bad about Voyager. Like, this is a brokerage. It's amazing. We have Steve. He's amazing. He direct messages his customers and gets back to us. And in June, we had a 1-year VGX Heroes celebration with him. And then July 1st, our money was locked, right? Like shocking stuff. Like on a Friday, like if you think about like you're a single parent or anybody, the Friday before the 4th of July weekend, and it was, if you get like biweekly checks or if you get paid every other week or twice a month, it was on that day for most people. So many people just got their money, like didn't get that check because we were using their debit cards. It wasn't even like, and their motto was unbank yourself. And so I just, yeah, I get it. Like it was, people are like, well, it wasn't regulated, blah, blah, blah. And it was never like, it was never even a question in my mind that it was like something like that would happen. But I've navigated this because I've gone through emerging adulthood and other parts of adulthood. I know that I've had some really hard times and I can get through it. I have a rare book business called Antiquarian Barbie on Etsy. I have a bunch of books that I haven't even posted yet, and I sell rare letters. I do a lot of different hustles. But yeah, I mean, was I devastated? Is Christmas not going to be as good this year? I mean, we're rich in a lot. And so I don't like to think about wealth as just money, but yeah, it's definitely difficult to be like, okay, that extra dance class or that extra thing. It's not as easy as it used to be. But one thing that did happen was that a lot of us, I think, weren't making that much or enough money in our regular jobs. And we were using our money to kind of sustain ourselves, like our trading, our stocks, right, for a long time. And so this helped me kind of realize like I might have to look for different positions that pay more because I'm actually worth more. And so I wonder how true that is for a lot of other people. So that was like the one benefit of all this. But I still want to figure out if there's any path forward. So, but I'm not holding my breath and I'm trying to start again. That was a long answer.
Sounds like you're taking if there is a positive attitude to take, you're taking it and trying to find the lessons and reflecting back, what you can learn from this. And it's very hard. I've been doing the same thing, trying to find out why. It's so easy to want to blame the companies, but at the end of the day, we are the ones that invested the money, and what can we learn and move forward. So it's hard.
Yeah, it was funny. Kevin O'Leary said something or whenever it was, maybe it was yesterday, but he said like, I invest, 8 out of 10 companies I have I invest in fail. So like, and then you make a ton of money on the 2 that you invest in that do well. And I'm like, okay, maybe I don't have the wealth mindset enough that could really carry me through yet. So I need to kind of watch people like Kevin O'Leary if you're interested in wealth, right? That's just another example of kind of like watching people that have what maybe you want, Not financial advice, but I did have a crypto newsletter for a while. I haven't been writing in as much, called Dr. Kerry Thinks. And yeah, that's pretty much what I'd put my what I was doing so that people could kind of see.
So what were you writing in your newsletter?
Just what the trades that I was making and like where I was putting my money and which exchanges that were that I was happy with. So there's like some Voyager stuff in there. But really, it's actually really interesting because you can see my whole thought process, like kind of like exactly how I traded for a year. It's almost like a journal of a trader for a year. Maybe I could do something with that, like make a book out of it or something. But it was pretty fascinating for me anyway, to have that. This is so fascinating to me, like what I was doing every day. I felt like it was so exciting. So yeah, I have slowed down on it a bit. It's harder, like, and I see people that like in the bear market, they stop doing videos as much, or they stop writing, and I'm like, oh, I see this now. I was like, oh, I'll keep doing it. But yeah, it's Scott Melker did the same thing. Have you heard of Scott Melker? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love him, and he did the same thing. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna keep a log of my trading too. So it just ended up being a little newsletter, so you can go back and be like, darn it. But I think it's really important too, like as an educator, to go through these mistakes, because I don't want kids or emerging adults to like I'd love to be doing this work for them, right? Like make all the mistakes and then be like, okay, you can do this trading in this way and in a more safe way. So
I love the idea of that, but for some reason I feel like at the end of the day we all have to make our own mistakes as much as I hope people learn from me. And I got wrecked on Luna and Celsius, and I know a lot of other people have too. Other people warned me, but I had to make my own mistakes to finally learn. And I'll probably have
That's
to
true.
do the
Yeah.
same thing multiple times. But
I think for me in my world, it was just even the word crypto, right? So that's why and it was very much for beginners. Like you might look at it and be like, oh my gosh, I already know this stuff. But it was really for like the person who had just gotten in. And so, like they hadn't even gotten to make trading mistakes yet. They were just kind of learning the landscape. So I think that it wasn't to try to keep people from making mistakes necessarily. It was just like, this is what I'm doing. You can do it if you want, but don't, not financial advice. I'm an educator.
I love the idea that you were making a newsletter, because I feel like the true way to mastery is when you are able to explain things to someone else. So I'm sure that helped you understand what you were doing and be able to explain that to others. One thing I wanted to ask you about is, what is WIN, or Women Intense NFT? I've been seeing you post about it.
Yes, so I'm a partner with a channel partner of STEM Intense NFT, and it is an NFT community, and they're developing a metaverse, and it's so cool. Like they're actually developing a metaverse that has there's like a library for with female scientists in the library. There's like boardrooms where people can meet. There are just like different scientists, female scientists that you can learn from. And so like buying an NFT, and I'm mostly marketing them to universities, but just having that NFT ends up also enabling one girl to be onboarded into Web3. So that's a part of it. It's almost like a ticket to that metaverse is what that NFT is. So yeah, it's just starting. The mint date was December 5th, but we're still like fully, kind of in the work. It was an NFT that I really believed in. So yeah, Women Intense NFT is just awesome. And one of those things that we were talking about is like, you have to see it in order to be it. So these NFTs are showcasing women in STEM fields. So you actually get to see a bunch of different NFTs with a bunch of different occupations. So if you purchase one of those, people get to actually see, okay, what is that? What is that position that I could maybe go into? And it's very diverse in nature. Like the girls are from all different countries, and it's a project that I'm working with someone in India. And so Twitter has enabled me to work internationally, which is so cool. Like I've never had that. Like sometimes I work nationally, but rarely. It's more like in my state, but now like I get, have international contacts. It's just wonderful. So
I love that Twitter has connected us with so many people, but this brings up a bigger question. A lot of your research and work has been in onboarding women into the workforce, and crypto and Web3 is predominantly male. So I'm wondering, aside from this NFT project, how can we attract more women, number one, as investors into the space, and also to work and have roles actually, being employed in the space as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like any industry, right? It's like the STEM industry, it's like finance and business. You have to bring them in by welcoming them and showing that women are safe in this space and that they're taken seriously. And sometimes I do and I don't love like the separation. We have a lot of like women only events, and I think there can be a way to do that, but also for men to bring women in and not it to seem like, oh, like it's like, oh, I'm supporting women. It's just like you're supporting this qualified individual. I often have said these things last year, like, I don't understand why men wouldn't want women investors. I mean, women make financial decisions for their families every day. They make them for men constantly. They have the money. They're in the workforce. Like the fact that they're neglected, it doesn't make any sense to me. So I think, I mean, if you were an investor, start investing in Jade, right? Have her speak her message. Invest in me as well if you want. But you know what I mean? Like have crypto females that can really talk and explain things to them in a way that doesn't feel such like a male space. Like I almost felt like I wasn't supposed to be there either, but because I wasn't so concerned about money when I was in my 20s, right? Like I was I was thinking about handbags more. I was thinking about shoes more, but if like someone told me like, oh, you might want to think about, your finances in 10 years, like,
You brought up a really interesting point. I do see people trying to make an effort with these women only groups in Web3, but why is it separated? Because then it's just going to be male groups and the female groups. I know for me, it was a big struggle to kind of work my way in. It's a very intimidating space, and I think it should just
yeah,
be for cohesion. I was so afraid to ask any group of, I was in a big lunatic group chat. So for the first year, I didn't ask any question. I didn't want them to think I was stupid. I was the only girl, right?
right.
A bunch of guys. I
Me
was
a
always
long
the
time too.
lurker on Twitter because God forbid I ask a stupid question and I would get made fun of till the end of days. But because of that, I ended up making awful mistakes. I went on Discord, ended up asking a question of a scammer, and I got my wallet scammed of $15,000. So I wish that we could make a more inclusive space, and it doesn't need to be just women. It can be more of a mix. I really like that you said that. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's good and bad. Like it helps to talk things out with women and figure out like what are ways to like get ahead in this space, but really sometimes it just does feel like very separate, and that this is like a separate awards, this is like a separate thing. And I really think it's just like almost like women in Hollywood, like the men are at the top and they are controlling the apes, they're controlling the money, they're at the very top, and so it's going to take us a while to get there, to get to the top for a lot of people. And a lot of times there's only one or two, and that one person can't mentor the entire world. And that's what is put on their shoulders. So if men did want to give up a little bit of their power to bring women in, as from an investor standpoint, like from like, look at all this money that you're not making. I think that would be a place to start, because the wealth is where the wealth is. And we have to understand that.
Yeah, and there's a huge demographic that is not being tapped into.
Right.
So switching gears a little bit, what would you say is your biggest accomplishment or proudest moment in the crypto space?
My biggest accomplishment, I mean, I've made some good trades and I had no experience, and I've learned a lot. But I mean, yeah, nothing's better than like making some really good trades and some decent money. But really it's the lessons they're not my proudest moments, but they're like the things that you need to do to move on. And I guess meeting people, like I have a few people who have been in the space, the 2015ers, the I know that doesn't seem like that long, but like people in 2012, and they're like, even though like we're really close to regulation and things are a little bit more wild and seems more mainstream, like there are still definitely opportunities. So just really my proud moments are just listening to the people before me who say that it's going to be okay, it's going to turn around, like don't bet the farm, but this too shall pass. So that keeps me hopeful. I don't know if I have a proud moment though, because my proud moments are tarnished by the other moments.
Being open to lessons, and connecting with community. I heard that as well. I think that's something to be very proud of.
I think also just going, like you said, like asking the questions and like putting yourself out there is a huge accomplishment. Going into a space that you know nothing about and actually trying to like be a person in it is super. It's hard enough going into my education groups by myself, you know what I mean? And like talking about education because you think everybody else is so much smarter than you are, right? Like, but going into something that you know nothing about. Like I go to some of the blockchain groups. I'm like a lurker, Boston blockchain, and like you should be really proud of yourself if you do that, right? Like if you speak up in the long spaces, you should be really proud of yourself.
Especially those spaces. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about manifestation, abundance, the law of attraction. You told me a story on Twitter recently about how you radically changed your life when you turned 30 within a year, your entire life. And you still have the journal pages to prove it. So I was hoping you could tell that story because I thought it was very beautiful. And then I was hoping that you could tell us, for anyone that feels like they're a bit stuck and they want to level up, what can they do to, change their life in the radical way that you did?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still, it's interesting because that year I'm like, wow, I wish I had the energy that I put into that year. Like, could that happen again? Because, you can't always supercharge. Well, you can if you want to, but like sometimes you gotta go a little bit slower. There are seasons for everything. But when I was 28 and 29, like I went through a really bad breakup. And I started reading about law of attraction and like, because I wanted him back. So funny. He doesn't even know this. So if you're out there, like, but I just was like, how do I do this? And I started reading about like the secret and the secret to manifesting and like the world within is the world without, like taking care of your insides to get like what you want on the outside, and started meditating. And then I started just like getting a bunch of magazines and cutting out stuff that I found like I wanted in my life, the body that I wanted to have. And then I just committed to that. Like, actually, maybe the breakup was 29. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. It was not 28, 29. And then when I turned 30, I had like started to get that body that I wanted. And then I moved to Beacon Hill, the neighborhood that I wanted to live in, because I had like seen all these pictures in like my manifestation journal and from magazines. I put them in there. Then I moved into Boston in this like beautiful neighborhood. And then I met he is now my ex-husband, unfortunately, but I met him in June, as I had written in the book, like, I'm ready for love now. Universe, I'm ready. And I still have it. It was like June 20th. He was moving to California. I ended up moving to California. I got my dream home that I had been manifesting. Like all the homes in California were this certain color. They weren't like cool colors. And then we walked into this one and it looked like I'd walked into a New England home, and we just like got that. And it had like a rose garden out back and my beautiful daughter a year later. And it was just really like a supercharging time. And it was affirmations like crazy. And at that time I was writing a lot, but I will say that like affirmations are a cheat code for like anything. Like tell yourself you can do it. Tell yourself like I hit the jackpot. Tell yourself like I'm thin, I'm gorgeous, I'm all this stuff. That it really can speed things up for you. But you really have to be consistent and put that energy in. And sometimes I'm kind of like, okay, now it's different. But so that was like that crazy year where I had moved, gotten married like 9 months later, then like 9 months after that had a baby. Like it was just like really, really fast. So it can happen. Like when you want things, you just gotta be willing to deal with all the stuff that could happen as a result, right? And like be ready. Like, is this the relationship I want to be in?
Idea that when good things start happening to you, is it too good to be true? And this idea of self-sabotage, I feel like that's something I struggle with as well. So I'm wondering, you went from having this, terrible breakup, but then you said, I'm ready for this. I want this.
It was like a year later though, like,
But over the course of this year, when these good things started happening to you, did you think, oh, this is too good to be true? Or I'm ready for this. I asked for this. This is the universe giving me the love that I am ready for it.
Yeah, like that year was wild. I don't know why I felt like I was super ready. Now I get what you're saying. For me, like sometimes it can feel too good to like you're so used to not having feeling good feelings all the time. So it's like becoming a different person, like essentially like really changing your whole vibration, your whole attitude in a fast way. It doesn't really feel that great actually. Like it's like you're so used to a different way of being. So that year I really did push myself, and I didn't even have time to self-sabotage really. Like I was really living, and a lot of times I'm in my head. So I was doing all the experiences that I had written in my journal, right? Like they were coming one after another, which was really wild how fast they all happened. because I had always wanted to move to California too. It was on a bucket list that I had written like 15 years before that. And I was like, oh, I guess I'll never move to California. But meet my, ex-husband in Boston and he's moving to California in August, and then end up moving like in December. It's just like one of those things, like, things that you write down or think that you want, like most likely will happen, even if you don't think they will. So just getting it on paper is like super important. But yeah, I hear you with the self-sabotage. I do it all the time. Like I'm trying to manifest a certain body right now, but I stop myself because I'm like, okay, what happens with that too? Like, what's the kind of attention that you get? Like, what could go wrong? Like, I think about those things, or a certain job, like, am I prepared for that? Like, can I manage motherhood and that? So it's like, I do have, I think, some more self-sabotage sometimes, but if you can kind of forget about all that and just go for it, you can really get what you want pretty fast.
So it sounds like, and for me, I've had a tough year. I think anyone who's watching this video has had a tough year, and if we want to break out of this mold and achieve something a bit better, which I think anyone would want to do, that is just taking action. But before you take action, you have to really visualize the life that you want to lead. And it sounds like you started with small changes, just writing that down, the neighborhood that you wanted to live in, the body that you wanted to be in, where you saw yourself, and then just subconsciously it forced you to take these little changes. And you were so busy living your life that you weren't thinking too much. And then suddenly you lived this life that you created yourself. I think that's such a beautiful story.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. I do think though that it's super helpful to like keep doing that work, because I know even sometimes, like when I'm not journaling anymore, I'm not, visualizing, I fall off, and then I like can go back. But it's like, if you kind of keep up with it, keep up with your manifestations, keep up with like the love in my marriage, like all that kind of stuff, that's all stuff that I should have been maybe journaling about and thinking about. And that can keep your manifestations together. So it's something that people might want to take in, like really keep up with your manifestation and keep growing from there. Like marriage isn't the end goal. Like there's this whole life after that.
I wanted to ask you, you found a boyfriend on crypto Twitter, which is the dream. I kind of want to.
Is it the dream?
It is for me, because I think it's really great to be able to connect to people. You get to learn so much about them. I have never met so many smart people, and to be able to engage with their mind and without the physical component, you get to learn about them very quickly. I think it's great. So I'm wondering, did you manifest this? Did he fall in love with your tweets? This is just, you're the first person I've met who's found a boyfriend on Twitter. And I want to hear the story.
I was just in my Voyager rooms, I wasn't looking for anyone. I actually, I had a boyfriend. Things weren't going that well, and because of crypto Twitter, because I was on crypto Twitter and, designing my life. He probably just wasn't right for me. It's definitely different, like dating, like with a child and adults. It's just different than like dating when you're truly single. So he would always come into these Voyager rooms, and I don't know, I like loved his voice, and he was like, but I guess I just like joke around with him and a little bit. And then, he told me that I'd get really quiet when he would come in. And I just think I really liked listening to his voice, but I usually like talk so much myself that I don't do that. And then he does financial literacy, and, I'm interested in that as well. And so a few months later, like we started talking, and we had a phone call or whatever. And then he just, started calling me more. And that's the story. Like it really just, we just like really liked each other, like just kind of found each other funny. And I think it's so nice to kind of just connect with the voice. And we were both doxxed, but like I didn't know all his physicality or whatever. And so, yeah, like then I was like, oh, well, like we're going to do this, then we should do it. And so like, let's meet up kind of thing. Like I'm not going to be your Web3 girlfriend and not meet you. Like I find that so weird that a lot of people do that, or they like have so many different friends, or I mean, it's fine if they're comfortable with that, but I'm like, if like I want to be in a relationship, so like, and I want it to be in real life. So and Twitter too, like you can do that for branding purposes and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, then I met him in August, and then we've been together since then, and he came last weekend to visit. So yeah, I mean, it's been interesting for sure. Like it's been nice to have Twitter guys they're kind of like making sure that he treats me right in some ways. Like it's nice to have like a community watching out for you. Like it's back to like college or high school days, kind of.
I love that you found love on crypto Twitter, especially because it can be sometimes a toxic place, especially in a bear market. But I love this positive vibe and this good, feel good story. I think it's great. Anyway, you were one busy lady.
Sorry.
You have a full-time job. You're doing a bunch of other things in the Web3 space. You've got a side hustle with rare books. You're a single mom. What do you do when you have a minute of free time? What do you like to do for fun?
What's that? No, I mean, I have like a few friends in the city, and we go out occasionally to remind ourselves that we're adults. Because I live in the city. I love it here. I'm a city person for sure. Although I could be persuaded to live in a huge castle or something like that in the suburbs. But I like being around people a lot, but having my own little place to retreat to. Yeah, I really don't have a ton of time. So that's what I do. I go out, I read, I like to make things. Like I junk journal with my daughter. We like create these little crafty type things. I like the beach. I did axe throwing recently, and I was pretty good at it, and I had no idea, but that was pretty fun. So yeah, and I want to get back into tennis. I used to be pretty good at that. So, but when you become like a mom, it's hard to have interests that are that you're keeping up with, So
axe throwing.
She's a dancer. I sit in my car and watch her dance. Those are the exciting things I do. But so yeah.
And you touched on this a little bit, but what are you currently manifesting?
Money, like some more ease. Well, actually, you want to see? I have a giant white dry erase board here, and it says, I'm manifesting $2 million and a trip to Disney in January. So I'm starting with the January trip to Disney. I have no idea how I'm going to pay for it. Just started looking at, different flights, and started working out for like bathing suits, that kind of thing. So that's what I'm manifesting right now.
Okay, so the next section I call quick take, and it's designed for a little bit of shorter answers. What's the best advice you've ever been given?
Do what makes you happy.
You make life-changing money on a meme coin. What's the first thing you buy?
I actually would probably pay off my condo. That's first. Then I would get like, my daughter and I would figure it out. And then I'd get some things done to my body and face probably too. And then I would donate it all to empowering women across the universe.
Okay, we'll take it. Who is your Web3 crush?
Jonathan Bloom. Is it a real crush or fake? Okay.
I think he would say that's a good
you're my real crush, but yeah, we say each other. So.
And for people that aren't watching, this is her crypto Twitter turned real boyfriend.
Yes, at Bloom Life Skills.
Okay. TED Talks or Twitter Spaces?
It's funny. I've actually met more people through Twitter Spaces, and I like them more because the interaction. But yeah. So Twitter Spaces probably.
I love Twitter Spaces too. All right, this is a tough one. Lunch with Seppi or dinner with Coach Bruce?
Oh my God, you can't ask me that.
I just did.
What if I told you I've already done both?
Then I would tell you I am
always eating when we're talking. So, you know what? I haven't Seffi and I probably, like the older people in the room, probably eventually will have to get down to business. So probably lunch with Seffi. But I love Bruce, but we're always in fights lately. So you gotta be better, Coach Bruce. I'm the real deal. Kidding. I'm gonna get in trouble for that, but
Complete the sentence. I am
excited about things to come.
I was looking for like an affirmation.
Yeah, I'm excited about things to come.
I love
I
that.
am so awesome. They really are great. I'm thinking about doing an affirmation channel. I've listened to some that go on for 8 hours at night, and they've really helped me transform the way I think about relationships. So, and I know that's like a big thing in Web3. So I think that I'll have to get on that.
I think you should, because just I always see your really positive tweets, and just scrolling upon that in my timeline, just seeing it every once in a while. I know it gets buried into my subconscious mind, and it really does.
Okay.
So thank you. Just a couple last words. Since you are excited, this is perfect segue to my next question. What excites you the most about the future of Web3?
I'm so excited about just the different projects in the metaverse and how we really have the ability to make sure that it doesn't turn into just Vegas, when Biff got the almanac and Back to the Future 2 and everything just went to crap, like we have an actual opportunity to create educated spaces, beautiful spaces, fun spaces, adult friendly spaces, kid friendly spaces, but we have to do it before it becomes Vegas. Not that Vegas is bad. I love Vegas, but you know what I mean? Not too wild that it completely changes society forever, So that's what I'm excited about.
And if there's one thing you wish people knew about you or that they take away from this interview, what would it be?
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess I hope that people know that, I think people do, but no one's ever just one thing. Like you can be into rare books and crypto education and, tennis and just different things and throughout life. And, you don't have to just put yourself in one box, even though everybody is so into branding, which is wonderful. You can be a multi-layered person and that's okay.
Well, Dr. Kerry, it's been very fun to get to know all of your layers today.
Thanks.
I only knew you as, kind of this, fun person on Twitter Spaces, one of the only women, and it's been fun to get to know you that way. But I really enjoyed this conversation, and I appreciate all of the good that you're doing, getting more women involved, and your research sounds fascinating. And I look forward to your affirmation channel, and I hope you get back to writing. I would love to read
me too.
better.
Okay.
So for people that want to follow you, I will link to your Twitter, but is there anywhere else that they can follow your work?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on the Wisdom app, where I answer short questions if you have any. But yeah, and I'm soon to have my link tree all together. But yeah, it's pretty much for now. It's Twitter, Wisdom app, Facebook, old school type stuff.
Fantastic. I love the combination of the old and the new, but thank you for your time today, Dr. Kerry. I really, really enjoyed getting to know you and our conversation, and I am sure that I will see you soon in Twitter Spaces.
Thank you so much, Jade.
Okay, talk to you soon.